Acme Auto has an onboarding process for all new hires in the company. This process consists of 4 tasks. The first task is adding the new hire to the IT infrastructure by assigning them an employee ID, a company email address, and initial login credentials. The second task is sending several emails welcoming them to the company, briefing them on their first day, and requesting their photo and t-shirt size. The third task is creating a badge. Each new employee needs a badge with their photo to access the building. The fourth and final task is ensuring there is appropriate swag for the new hire. Each new hire receives a branded t-shirt and a work bag. The next orientation class contains 43 new hires. Acme Auto wants to add automation to their onboarding process before then. All 4 tasks need to be repeated for each new hire. Here are 2 design ideas from the Appian development team at Acme Auto. The first, create an entire onboarding process in a single robotic process. The robotic process would complete all 4 tasks for the new hire number 1 and then repeat them for each new hire in the list. The second, create 4 robotic processes, 1 for each task. Each robotic process would repeat for each new hire in the list before moving on to the next robotic process. Which design idea should the dev team use? Let's walk through each design idea and apply the 2 questions, starting with, what are the system constraints? The first design idea is to put the entire onboarding process in a single robotic process. This is how the Human Resources Department handle these tasks currently. An individual in the HR department takes a list of new hires and completes tasks 1 through 4 for the first individual, and then moves on to the second individual. From a system perspective, this process works fine, so there are no system constraints. Next question, how will you handle exceptions? Outside of this onboarding workflow, there are several other HR functions that depend on the employee ID being created in a timely manner. If an ID is not created for an employee, HR would like to look into that situation immediately and manually create IDs for all new hires until the robotic process can be fixed. In this first design idea, it would be difficult to accomplish this. For that reason alone, Acme Auto decides not to use the first design idea. What about the second design idea? 4 robotic processes, 1 for each task. What are the system constraints? From a system perspective, there are no constraints. Even though the current process is for an HR employee to complete all tasks for 1 new hire before moving on to the next new hire, there is no system constraint that makes that a necessity. The workflow can be to generate an employee ID for each new hire in the list before moving on to the next task. The second question, how will you handle exceptions? This design idea makes it easy for exceptions to be handled for each task individually. Maybe the application to create employee IDs introduced a new confirmation dialog to the process. The robotic process doesn't know how to handle that yet, but a member of the HR team could manually process the IDs for the new hires while a fix is made to the robotic process. After thinking through the 2 questions, what are the system constraints and how will you handle exceptions, the Acme Auto dev team decides to use the second design idea. They will create a robotic process for each task in the onboarding workflow.